Hey, I'm Bob at ILikeToMakeStuff. Today we're going to keep working on R2-D2. We're finally back to working on R2-D2. And if you didn't see part 1 of this build, go check it out. It explains how we got to this point right here. But basically, let me bring you up to speed. We've got the aluminum dome that I did some work on to cut out the panels. We've got the aluminum skins, which I also cut out panels on. And last time we built the internal frame, and this is out of styrene. We also have the legs built out of styrene, but we don't have any ankles. So this thing can't sit on the ground yet. So one of the goals for this video is to get the ankles built, to get all of the features on, to get them painted, and basically complete but static. I would be really happy if I can get R2-D2 to look like R2-D2 even if he doesn't do anything yet. We'll get to the electronics and the lights later on. I ordered a bunch more of the detail parts that are machined aluminum. I'm waiting on those to come in, but all the parts that aren't going to end up being aluminum finished, I'm going to go ahead and 3D print so that I can save on weight and on cost. And the first one of those is the skirt that goes on the bottom of R2. Let's start on that one. Like I mentioned in part 1, astromech.net is the forum where you get all the information you need to build an R2 unit. In fact, they also have a bunch of 3D files that you can use to 3D print parts. Not everything is there, but I did find the skirt, and so I printed out all the different parts in black. I'm going to glue these pieces up and then finish them and paint them white. The next real piece to put together here is the center ankle, and this goes inside that skirt. Now this was made of a bunch of individual pieces, just like the frame was in part 1 of this. I glued all these up into a single block, and then I ran it over the belt sander to get the edges kind of smooth, but you can still see the individual pieces. So next up I'm going to add some Bondo to try to make this look like a solid piece. I continue to work on this center ankle. I've got it pretty much cleaned up on the outside, and then I started to add these pieces on the sides that are detail, and this is a thin material to build it up and give it the curve. I bought some of these really nice machined aluminum pieces that go on here, and when I set them in place, I realized that the angles don't match. Now this is one of those cases where I thought I was following the instructions correctly and I was kind of afraid to adjust it, but now I've got the confidence to realize that I'm just gonna have to tear this out and remake it to fit these pieces. It was actually kind of freeing to tear it out and make the correct piece so that it fits together perfectly. So I'm learning as I go here that I can't always follow the instructions exactly. Sometimes you just gotta go off script and make it fit. Over the past few days, I've been doing a few different things. One, I separated all the pieces that I have so far into the different colors. So some of these are gonna stay silver, some of them are gonna be blue, some of them are gonna be white. So I started kind of breaking down those, and that also helped me figure out what pieces I was still missing. We've got a couple more things on order, but then on top of those, I've actually been working on the skins as well. This is the more exciting part to me, because these skins are actually attached to the frame now. These are the inside skins, the bottom skins, and then there's outer skins that go on top of those, and that's what I want to work on now. These inner skins are screwed on. I put in some little styrene blocks and then drilled and countersunk some holes right there so I could put in small screws to hold these on. That way if I ever need to take them off or anything, they're not glued in place. The other skins that get painted white are going to go on top of these and be attached in the same way. They're going to get a couple of small screws right in that same kind of area to hold them in. The leg goes right here, and so the leg will cover up any of those screws that you can still see. With this outer skin on, you can start to see the kind of two levels that you'll notice on R2-D2. This inner skin stays silver, and then this outer skin will be white, so you'll start to get a lot of dimension on all these panels. Then there's white panels that get glued on top of this that will cover up the opening. I'm making some marks on the outer skins to show me where the screws on the inner skins are so that I don't accidentally drill in the wrong place. And then before I drill the holes to attach these skins, I want to put the legs in place to make sure that they fit within this opening, because that's pretty important. I know that the legs fit in the openings now, so next I got to take them back off and then attach the outer skins by drilling and countersinking some more holes. I'm ready to move on to painting some of the panels. I'm just going to do the ones that aren't going to be attached yet, just so I can figure out the paint process. So this is bare aluminum, two pieces glued together. And to paint this, I'm going to use some aluminum primer. Some other people use a self-etching primer instead, but I think both will give basically the same effect. I'm going to lay down a coat of this, then come back with a normal gray primer on top of that, sand that really smooth, and then hit it with some matte white. Now this is the color that everybody seems to use for the actual body finish. I'll use a different color for all the blue parts, obviously, and that's a certain mixture that we'll have to figure out later on. For the past several days I've been painting on and off and putting primer on the pieces and final paint. These are two pieces that are completely done and ready to go. These have the satin white finish on top of them and they look great. So this is what all the pieces that are white will end up looking like. I've also been working on the hubs. Originally these were white on the outside. They were covered with really thin styrene, but I realized that that was actually wrong. These needed to be aluminum too. So what I did was cut down a little strip of aluminum flashing and glue it around the outside of this with some E6000. It's a really great adhesive that attaches all sorts of stuff to all sorts of other stuff. I also used rubber bands as a clamp when I was gluing that up because it adds an even pressure on all sides of the circle. So this will eventually be stuck on the inside of the leg and go in between here and the body. So the next thing we're going to do is start to attach some of the skins. I've got the outer skin that's painted white and the inner skin that's aluminum, and so we've got to glue these two things together to be one piece. I've been painting and painting and painting all of these different parts, both white and blue, and I'm down to the last few blue pieces, and I wanted to point this out because I've had to mask a lot of these. And this one in particular, you only have to paint the top of this ring blue, so I've masked all the area around it, but then there's also this cup area in here, and I need to mask that as well. To do that, I'm gonna use hot glue. I'm just going to put a screw in there so when it dries and I'm done painting, I can easily just use that to pull it out. Now I'm ready to put on the back door, but I want to make sure that this thing can come on and off so I can access all the electronics on the inside. The idea was to mount that plate, that body panel, to this door, which was made to fit in here, but once I have these skins on, this actually won't quite go in. I don't think it's really necessary, so for now, I'm going to leave this out and just make it so that this panel can lock into place and probably stay there with some magnets. I'll end up adding those magnets later on, but for now, I just wanted to make sure that it actually fits in place and sits flush on all the sides. When I ordered the dome, I also ordered a bearing for it to turn on, and this actually is from Rockler. But the bearing and the dome are made to go together so that the holes line up. I've put these posts in here, and now I'm going to mount this outside ring temporarily down to the frame just using some screws. There we are. It's starting to look like R2-D2. I'm honestly not really sure how to break these videos up because there's no real clear part 1, part 2. It looks different than it did before, so we're going to stop right here. On the next part, we're going to do a bunch of different things, probably finish up the legs and get them mounted on, maybe start working on the dome and getting it ready to be put into place in its final form. Like part 1 to part 2, I have no idea when I will get part 3 out. These things take a long time, there's a whole bunch of little tasks, and I'm working on this outside of everything else that we're doing. So be patient, we'll definitely get a third part out to you as soon as we possibly can. I'd love to know if you have any thoughts on R2, if this has inspired you to take on a project for yourself. I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. We've also got tons of other types of project videos that you may want to check out, and if you're not subscribed, do that as well. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time. You need to go check it out because I need to slow down. I'm ready to move on to painting some of the panels, just the ones that aren't ready to get that aren't High five, R2. Thanks, R2.